It's the Rob's Rant Show
with your host, Rob Bell.
Brought to you by 906 Multimedia.
What was the federal government when we had the crack cocaine epidemic in our neighborhoods? Let's talk about that when I come back.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore! What the hell's going on out here?
This is Rob Bell, and this is Rob's Rant. All of a sudden, the federal government has stepped in because there appears to be an opiate epidemic across the country. In the Midwest, it was said to be over 100 overdoses of people who were taking heroin. And now there's this huge concern about the use of opiates across the country. And the government has stepped in and pledged to give X amount of dollars to X amount of cities to try to fight this opiate addiction, this heroin addiction that people seem to be having. Well, there's been a heroin problem and cocaine problem in the African American community forever. And where was the government then when babies were being not taken care of, when women were out in the streets selling their bodies, when brothers were out there selling crack cocaine and getting arrested and going to jail for it, and many of them are still in jail for selling drugs? Where was the government then when people's houses were getting broken into and people were getting shot and murdered in the street over drug territory and drug wars? Where was the government then when our community was being ravaged by the crack cocaine epidemic? The government wasn't pouring any money into our community. The government wasn't stepping in saying there's a problem and people need treatment. The government addressed the issue by arresting people and locking people up. There was no funding to help people get into treatment and making beds available for people. There were no news stories about, the poor young lady was addicted to opioids and it ruined her life. I heard a news story this morning that this young lady was struggling with the use of heroin, and if it wasn't because of her addiction, or if it wasn't for her addiction, she would be in med school today. But now that she's addicted to she's addicted to heroin, she is struggling with that, and it prohibited her from being able to go to med school. Well, you know what? That's white America now. And now that white America is being savaged by this whole heroin epidemic, the government wants to step in and do something about it. Once again, white privilege. And we, in our community, didn't have the privilege of anybody coming in and helping us with the epidemic of crack cocaine. The way the government decided to solve that issue was to lock people up, arrest people, and throw people away when we were struggling in our communities with the addiction of crack cocaine. And by the way, rumor has it that they were flooding our neighborhoods with cocaine and crack cocaine anyway, because it was about the profit, it was about trying to eradicate the black community, and it was about trying to destroy the black community as it has always been. And so, am I pissed off about it? You damn right I'm pissed off about it, because once again, we are being marginalized as African Americans in our communities when it comes to things that should have been addressed in the first place. Colorado is now a booming marijuana industry, and people are becoming millionaires when young brothers are locked up across America for selling marijuana on street corners. They were doing the same thing that these marijuana growers and entrepreneurs are doing in Colorado. But at the time, it was against the law. And so now that white folks have found a way to profit off of that legally, they're starting to make marijuana legal. And yet still, brothers are still being housed in cages and persecuted for doing the same things that they were doing. They were trying to feed their family the same way these millionaires are feeding their family. Oh, and by the way, they're doing more than feeding their family. They're living a life of luxury. And, nobody wants to even address that issue. Well, I'm addressing it because that's what I do. And it's ridiculous that we have to put up with this nonsense. This is Rob Bell, and this is Rob Wait.